I need it.
Okay, and I heard him talking about, it was something that he appealed, and he said a couple of years ago.
Yes,
But are we designating that that's going to be used for technology switches?
No, it's now in the general fund bucket.
It's committed.
It's no longer committed, it's a general fund
It's
item.
out of commitment.
It's out of committed. Yes, it's out of committed.
It's uncommitted.
Right.
I'm trying to understand this.
It's out of the savings account.
It's uncommitted.
Yes.
It's uncommitted and
That's a good,
it is,
yes.
and
That's
it's
a good
now
point.
in the general fund to be used.
That's good, Trish. All right, then the next one is the county ed jobs. And we had some money left over in county ed, well, it was actually the ed job program. And we had some money left over in that. And so we're gonna undesignate that, uncommit that.
Okay,
Use that.
was that an ARA, did that come down as ARA money?
It originally did, yes,
Okay.
And then it ended up in the general fund. And again, I just kind of separated it and out as a little line item by itself to keep track of. So now it's going to be uncommitted and go into the general fund.
What is the side effects of moving this money into the general fund to balance the budget? We gonna run into difficulties, into a brick wall or anything for doing it?
No, but what we do need to know, and that's what I spend a little bit of time here, it won't be available after this year. So, we really need to watch everything. And, I think Trish and Jeff has a lot of tough decisions to make. And, it's finally hit us. We've been in really good shape for years and years and years. And this is the first time in, I guess, since 1997 that we haven't had, enough to fund, the proposed budget amounts. But it's, the economy's bad. Expenses are high.
But all of this is outside of what we're going to get from the state to pay for our salaries
Yes.
and our taxes, taxes that comes to us. That's not included in any of this.
No.
So that this is what we're saying is, we're committed, we're committing, I guess, this extra, this $1,318,000 more than what you've got down here. You've already committed $1.4 million, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
When we did our proposed budget back in the spring, and, there's always usually a beginning fund balance. So we always, that's just a standard thing. And of course, once I saw the certified list numbers, I knew we had, we had some problems. So, it's just we just have to get those numbers down. And, I have a couple notes on the bottom. If we, if we didn't put the money into Hearts, we put $498,000 in Hearts, we would have had $794,000. That's a what if. And then I went on further and I said, well, what if we had the $794,000? I also know that I started out the fiscal year budget with a carryover of $1.6 million. So if I took that out, then that would still, be at about $800,000. So that's what I'm thinking we probably need to try to cut.
Well, as I was looking at, couldn't come talk to you, did my own figure. Even though I'm not a CPA. It looks like the fund balance, I've got your book.
Okay.
Giving me I guess trying to figure out fund balance that you had, if I looked back to 2011, and you had a fund balance, negative $3,533,447, and then you told us to add that back, which we would have ended up with a $4 million if it had not been for OPEB. This year you told us that we've got the $935,330.36, and of course the OPEB, if we added that back, and of course you told us that we would have had the $2,957,000. So when I subtract that, it looks like we overspent, or we spent $1,127,874.10 more than we took in. You told us that part of that was the Hearts dollars. And if I deduct that Hearts dollars from the million, it looks like we spent the $629,561.10. Now, I'm thinking, Bertie, that when we've talked before, that $600,000 that we overspent was probably in salaries, in those those personnel that we were over. So if we want to stay afloat, it's, I know you said the 800,000, but I'm looking at 600,000.
And those are just kind of rough numbers, so, and I hate to be too low, and then you guys say, well, so, 6 to 8, I mean, it's gonna be really tough.
Okay. So we actually ended with the $295,733.86. The actual ending, but we did overspend this past year by this much, but we're thinking that was Hearts property and the salaries.
Well, no, we didn't really overspend this year. We didn't really overspend. If you look on A, I mean, we really didn't overspend, because we had, after I did all the designations, we still had $295.
Right.
But I just needed money, because when I did the budget, I said, okay, I'm gonna have a carryover of 1.4, to do the 13 budget. So I don't have it. So now I'm just, kind of going back and uncommitting those items that we talked about. So we really didn't overspend when you look at the old way, Trish. Now, when you look at the financial statements, it's got all that OPEB expenditures in it, and it's got some extraordinary items, so it's really hard to look at these items, look at this book, and know what's going on anymore.
I was trying to study this. You're my spirit.
But, where it says total unassigned, the 295, that is not a lay person would think that was a carryover. Is that not true?
It is.
I mean,
Yeah, it is, yes, it would be. It would be, Steve. It would be. Under the old method, it's $295,000. That's how.
We ended the year.
Yes. So we didn't overspend. Okay, so that's a good thing. We didn't overspend. But I just know that I had budgeted for the 1.4, and like I said, I have two options. We can either come into this year and pull out $1.4 million out of everybody's budget.
So what are you saying? Where we got 295, you were anticipating 1.4 million? So you had to adjust for that.
So we uncommitted some of the things and got us to where we needed to be, so that our budget for this year is okay.
As in this fiscal year.
This fiscal year.
And if we don't do this between January and June, we gotta cut 1.4 million.
No.
600 some thousand, or somewhere between 600 and her 800, but, right.
Now, what effect will, like since school started, I don't know why I'm looking at you, Jeff.
Jeff's turn.
It's his fault.
Yeah, it's his fault.
I gotta blame somebody.
Student
Where we've had,
overages.
just like these overage teachers, we're hiring another person tonight and all these, and we've had, what, 5 or 6, I
Yes,
think.
yes.
Now, these are not reflected in this anymore, are they?
No, and, you know, next week's project is certified list. So hopefully after next week, I will be able to give you the number that we're running over, which will give us a better idea of how this year's gonna turn out. So if we're over, you know, if we're 10 people over what we budgeted, we got some real serious problems.
Birdie,
And I think we have serious problems anyway.
in the second month report, it looks like we may be approximately 45 students
Oh, okay,
to
that's
the good,
good.
so,
That's
well,
good.
that'll help us, right?
Yeah, okay.
Well, and we're anticipating a levy election this year. Has that been,
I don't think this year.
I'm sorry, not levy,
Oh,
the
the
bond
bond,
election.
uh-huh.
And that's not budgeted. or is
No,
it?
we didn't budget for the bowling alley.
Well, but if we're gonna have one, that's
Yeah.
gonna be another additional whatever.
Could part of this be where we just recently, the last few years, come into effect where we lost all the arts kids also?
I think we've normalized and equaled out from that. I think what's hurt is, and I'll go through a few things with you I've highlighted. I went over my 5 minutes.
Because I couldn't come up and ask you these questions.
You know, just the prices, you know, everything. I did notice the natural gas is the one item that's down. But, you know, everything else is just up, and I've highlighted a few things. And then, of course, when you bring these new schools online, these new schools are so expensive to operate. You know, Lincoln County High School, anytime you know, do anything over there, it's very expensive. And now we have another new school, which, you know, I'm so thankful that we have these wonderful schools for our children, but they are also expensive to operate. And, you know, the utility bills are high for those facilities. Diesel fuel, as everybody knows, you know, that's went up, electric's went up. We just have lots of things that have went up. Okay, now, so we good?
I just.
No, okay, keep asking
No,
questions, Steve. Hey, I don't have nothing to do.
Well,
Jeff, you need to go home.
I'm good.
I didn't mean that, I mean, I don't think we're
Okay,
good, I didn't mean that good. I
Okay.
mean, as far as our standing, it could be better.
And
We'd like to have more money that we,
yeah, and you know, like I said, we've just been real lucky, but and of course, it's hit the state too. You know, the state's had surplus, and it's finally hit the state, so it's just kind of hitting everybody.
well, I guess I want to say what I want to be clear on is part of that money last year was impacted from the teachers that we had not anticipated, when we had overages in certain areas, that we had to add those people on, and they were not expected to be here this year, but yes, they are. We've had to add, you know, more, because we don't know where they're gonna be, you know, we don't know where those little children are gonna show up, and so that will, again, you know, affect some of that.
and that's one of the reasons you have to plan, to have the decrease in staff.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Of course, you know, some of the things that, you know, we did during the spring, or the personnel season, you know, we cut some positions.
Uh-huh.
And of course, you know, we've eliminated the food service director's position, that's some savings. And then I don't know,
This one person retired in the special ed office that we have not replaced.
and let's see, we eliminated a
Mechanic.
transportation position.
Mhm.
So, you know, we've done, you know, there's already some things in the warrant that's being done that's gonna help us. But, you know, I think that's where it's gonna come from is personnel. I just don't, you know, I just don't see any cuts anywhere else that would have any type of impact for what we need to do.
So when we have requests from schools or whatever for various things,
I think we just have to say no this year, I really do.
just say no, all right, Nancy, right?
And, you know, maybe next year, you know, we'll get ourselves in line a little bit, but, you know, it's probably more important to spend that money to have a teacher in the classroom than having somebody go on trips or, you know, so, you know, we're kind of redirect the focus of where the dollars need to go.
Let's talk about the bonding, and so the only
Okay.
costs on the bond would be the election itself, because like everything else there is either ideally going to be supported by the SBA or by the bond should it pass, right? The only other costs are just the election itself.
Is the land going to be in the bond?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that would probably be $50,000 for an election?
Yeah, I'm just thinking 50 or 60
Yeah.
probably. That we don't have in the current
And-
budget,
Right, right. Now, let me say this, it's not all gloom and doom. You know, we do have our excess levy that is, and I've said this to you before, that we do have instructional money, you know, so the kids are not going to go without. You know, we have the student activities money, you know, it's out at the schools for them to make the decisions on who needs to go where and do what with. Instead of coming and asking you governors, they need to go to
And
the
they already have
principals.
that, right?
They already have that, they know what their allocations are. You know, there's plenty of textbook money, plenty of supply money, plenty of money for library books. There's, the teachers have, you know, their $300 teachers allocation. They have their $200 faculty senate money. So, you know, there's plenty of money for all that type activity. So it's not like we can't, you know, we have to shut down, but, you know, it's just any of the extra stuff and the personnel is where we need to kind of get careful.
And this is totally separate from all of the federal dollars that are
Yes.
that we would have in special education that comes in Title I, Title II, Title VI. So those are separate dollars, and those budgets, you'll have those, or they're probably all approved now. They'll be in our budget by next, middle of October or something.
Well, and actually, we, on the 18th, we approved several of them. But
Uh-huh.
yes, now I'll really get everything into the budget once I've got this all completed. So, now, is everybody, you kind of, so, you know, we didn't go to Hall, which is good. Really good.
That's good.
It is really good. We really have to be careful. And just a couple other little things I'll share with you, just to let you know that, you know, things are getting tough. This is our, you know, our cash balances. And you can see how our cash balances have, you know, kind of went down. So, you know, at one time, we had quite a bit of,
After today, we're not paying enough.
um,
I think you need to start at the top,
I'm talking about the board president.
Whoever's the highest paid in the county.
So that's just to kind of let you see what our ending balances are on June 30th, you know, so you can see we're kind of down from the 2 previous years. And that's informational. Now, here's our expenditures. I just kind of highlighted a couple little things that I think we need to. Where we can kind of maybe make some cuts or be a little bit more cautious. And I've just kind of penciled in some things. So the very first item there, when I look at our professional wages, these are contracts. Our professional wages went up $1.3 million as compared to the previous year. So that's a pretty good chunk right there. And like Trish said, that's where a lot of it's where we had to put those people in those